Ekubo gets engaged to his girlfriend, Fancy Acholonu.
And in sports, Inter Milan wins Italian Serie A title.
Details of these and more after this break. I am Omoye Ugbede. The Edo Museum of West Africa at Emoa, backed by the Governor Godwin Obaseki-led administration, has gotten a major boost, with German authorities committing to return the first set of artifacts in 2022. In a joint declaration, Germany's Ministry of Culture, state ministers and museum directors committed to return Benin bronzes taken by the British Army in a raid on the Kingdom of Benin in 1897. The first set of the bronzes are to be returned in 2022. Governor Obaseki has been at the forefront of calls to return the artifacts, with his engagement with the Benin Dialogue Group culminating in the setting up of the Legacy Restoration Trust, which has now secured funding and support for the construction of Emoa and excavation of relics of Old Benin Empire, including the famous Benin Moat. The first set of buildings for the museum is proposed to be ready by next year. The declaration also outlines plans for the return of the first pieces next year and commitments for additional restitution. The declaration also requires museums in possession of Benin objects to establish and document their provenance. In an effort to increase awareness about the dangers of irregular migration and human trafficking, the International Organization for Migration, IOM, has trained over 25 journalists in Nigeria to deepen their knowledge on migration issues and report with appropriate terminologies. Our correspondent, Chinedu Ekeja, was part of the training and reports that the journalists were drawn from various media houses across the country.
With an understanding that migration is part of human experience, the International Organization for Migration, IOM, has decided to strike a balance between working to reintegrate victims of trafficking and irregular migration and creating awareness about the dangers. Here, journalists from various media organizations in Nigeria were brought together and trained to enhance their effectiveness in reporting migration-related issues for more impact. Cyprian Cheptenkin is the IOM awareness-raising officer in Nigeria.
We all know the key role that journalists play in the society in terms of agenda setting, and migration is part of the key things at the moment. And looking at the contributions of the journalists, we found it fit to do training, especially on changing the narrative of migration, because many a times the news we consume is those of maybe migrants drowning in the sea, carcasses here and there.
She also spoke about expectations going forward.
So it's our hope that once all the journalists who've been trained, based on the skills they've gained, we can be able to see a difference on how stories, especially those pertaining returnees, reported. We can be able to see their contribution, especially when it comes to addressing issues such as stigma, because, you know, at times you find like a story is being reported, but it's doing more harm to returnees or the victims of trafficking.
There were presentations on the use of appropriate terminologies, fact and figures, human rights, migration and media, mental health and psychological support in reporting migration, and overcoming challenges of reporting migration. There were also presentations on legal and ethical considerations while reporting migration stories, as well as migration, environment and climate change, among others. The presentation took an interactive format, allowing room for questions, contributions and idea sharing.
Investigative aspects. You look at deep human interest aspect of it. That is just different from the regular, their back, their profiling them. That's not how an editor would get that kind of story. I've never done any. It's a process. It will not be perfect in one day. It will take time. And the more we have an engagement of this nature, the more we discover other means in which we can approach this situation as they come.
For some of the journalists, it was an eye-opening experience.
I learned a lot, but the most impactful so far was the terms and terminologies. There are so many things that I mumbled actually very ignorantly, but now I know a lot more. So yes, it has been very exposing and enlightening.
I think the most impactful part of the training for me would be hearing from some of the attorneys, hearing how the experience really was for them. You know, it's different if you're just telling the story based on what you're reading.
Others are eager to return to their desk to implement these new set of skills and knowledge in their reportage.
As a participant, I will look at changing the narrative. The reportage has been more of a conventional thing, everybody reporting the same thing. But coming here, you know, to get more awareness on how to report irregular migration stories, change my orientation. So those who will be reading my message now will now see a new format, a new dimension to irregular migration reportage.
The last day of the training featured an interactive segment with members of Migrant as Messengers, MAM, who share their experiences and motivation since their reintegration by the IOM. Next batch of the training will be for editors of various media organizations by June this year. Chinedu Ekeja, KUFM News.
A former head of Department of Mechanical Engineering at Ambrose Allo University, Ekpoma, Professor Osadolo Odia, who was abducted by gunmen last Thursday, has been released. The wife of the professor confirmed on Sunday that her husband was released by the kidnappers on Saturday and that he has since reunited with his family. Professor Odia was said to be on his way to his farm at Eguru, Ekpoma on Thursday morning when the incident occurred. A criminal court sitting in Benin City has exonerated two indigenes of Kolokolo community in Edo State, Victor Asukorato and Mudupe Sunday, from 2-count charge of conspiracy and armed robbery. The presiding judge, Justice Ohimai Obiagele, discharged and acquitted the duo following the inability of the prosecutor to prove their case beyond reasonable doubt. While giving his judgment, Justice Obiagele pointed out that the statement of the petitioner was devoid of credibility while the testimonies of the second and third witnesses lacked merit. He further said the testimony of the fourth witness was evidently useless. Therefore, the judge said he finds the two defendants not guilty of the charges brought against them and discharged and acquitted them. Lead counsel to the defendants, Olaiwola Afolabi, described the judgment as a landmark one.
First and foremost, we're not surprised about the judgment. Because when you appear before the judge, Justice Obiagele, you know you are coming for justice. He has a PhD in law, and we're very happy. When they brought the case to us, we found that they were just arrested for nothing because the DPP has already made a new case for them. Later, they now brought them back to court, and we researched into law. We researched in the day, in the night, and in the afternoon. And that's the result. They were set free. Right now, we're going to file a civil suit against the complainants because they knew there was no case at all against them.
Counsel to the petitioner was unavailable for reaction to the judgment. The judgment, however, puts to rest the case that has been on since August 2018. And the Office of the Independent National Electoral Commission in Essien Udim local government area of Akwa Ibom has been set ablaze by hoodlums. Resident Electoral Commissioner for Akwa Ibom, Mikey Guinea, reported the incident occurred in the early hours of Sunday. Facilities at the DSS office, located close to the INEC office, were also destroyed. According to a statement by National Commissioner and Chairman Information and Voter Education Committee, Festus Okoye, the police were already investigating the fire incident. The statement said the security guard on duty escaped unhurt, but the destruction of the building and properties therein was extensive. The INEC Commissioner raised the alarm that if unchecked, the attacks may constitute a setback to the Commission's preparations, including the ongoing conversion of voting points to polling units, the forthcoming continuous registration of voter exercise, and the conduct of polls. Officials of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps have arrested 26 suspected cable vandals in Kwara State. The NSCDC commandant, Makinde Ayila, said the suspects vandalized electric armored cables and other items in Ilorin, the state capital. Ayila said while the prime suspects, Tanko, Bashir Eke, and Nafiu, took to their heels on citing NSCDC personnel, the man who accommodated them, Suleiman Abdullahi, was arrested alongside other 25 suspected vandals who claimed to be scavengers. He said the fleeing suspects abandoned some armored cables and a Bajaj motorcycle. Ayila said investigation revealed that Abdullahi, under the pretense of scavenging discarded items, employ the services of suspects to vandalize government properties and also perpetrate other criminal acts. And the Sultan of Sokoto, Alhaji Sahad Abubakar III, led Jumatu Nasril Islam, JNI, and asked the President Muhammad Buhari-led administration to be alive to the responsibility by protecting the lives and property of Nigerians following the insecurity across the country. The Sultan's JNI also acknowledged that things were hard, urging affluent Muslims to assist the poor adversely hit by the harsh economic situation in the country. According to a statement signed by the JNI's Secretary General, Dr. Khalid Aliyu in Kaduna on Sunday, the Muslim community must also pray for an improvement in Nigeria's economic and the restoration of security across the country. A student of Imo State University, IMSU, Owerri, Kingsley Chinweze, has been found dead 5 days after he went missing. Chinweze, a 300-level law student, was declared missing last week Monday, and his phone lines were switched off. He was said to be actively involved in student union politics and 2 weeks ago declared his intention to run for Senate President of National Association of Imo State Students. President of the Students' Union Government of IMSU, Arinze Ogwike, who confirmed the development on Sunday, said Chinweze's body was found in the morgue of Umuguma General Hospital, Owerri. He said the hospital attendant told students who stormed the mortuary that the body was deposited there by officials of a private hospital in Owerri. And the chairman of Yagba West Local Government Area of Kogi State, Pius Kolawole, was on Saturday abducted by unknown gunmen. Kolawole was kidnapped on his way to his hometown in Egbe, the border town between Kogi and Kwara states. However, the State Commissioner for Pension Board, Solomon Adebayo, who was in the same vehicle with the chairman, was shot by the abductors. The Kogi State Police Public Relations Officer, DSP William Aya, who confirmed the incident during an interview in Lokoja on Sunday, said Kolawole was with Adebayo in the same car when they were attacked by gunmen at Eruku. Aya said Adebayo was hit by gunmen's bullets and died in the process. Meanwhile, the Kogi State Police Command said it has commenced search for the whereabouts of the Yagba West chairman. And coming up in a moment on entertainment news, Nollywood actor Kubo gets engaged to his girlfriend. Details in a moment. It's not a news break on KU 92.7 FM Benin City. In some entertainment stories, popular Nollywood actor Alex Ekubo has finally left the single men's group as he gets engaged to his adorable girlfriend Fancy Achlono. Alex Ekubo, who has appeared in many blockbuster movies as well as tagged Loverboy by some fans, took to his official Instagram account to share the joyous news. Top personalities in all walks of life have stormed his timeline to celebrate his latest achievement as all eyes are set on his wedding date. And the final episode of Line of Duty was the BBC show's most watched on to date, with an average of 12.8 million viewers tuning in on Sunday night. That made it one of the highest rated dramas in recent years, surpassing Doctor Who's 2008 Christmas Day special, seen by 11.7 million. Viewers tuned in to find out the identity of criminal mastermind H. Overnight viewing figures are generally not considered as relevant as they used to be, given the increase in on-demand services and changing viewer habits, but Line of Duty has bucked the trend, with fans keen to watch live to find out the latest plot twists and avoid spoilers. The show, which first aired in 2012, was created by British writer Jed Mercurio and stars Martin Compston as D.I. Steve Arnott, Vicky McClure as D.I. Kate Fleming, Andrean Dumba as Superintendent Ted Hastings, and Kelly MacDonald as DS Joan Davidson. And that's it from entertainment. And in sports, Inter Milan wins first Serie A title in 11 years. Details in a moment.
Good morning. Inter Milan have been crowned champions of the 2020-2021 Serie A season, their first title since 2010. The Nerazzurri were confirmed as winners on Sunday after Sassuolo drew 1-1 with second-placed Atalanta to assure Antonio Conte's side of the league crown. Inter beat Crotone 2-0 on Saturday to allow them to grasp the trophy with one hand. They are 13 points clear in first place with 4 games remaining, and their triumph hence a run of 9 consecutive title wins for Juventus. This year's last success marks their 19th Serie A trophies, which means they have now overtaken city rivals AC Milan, who have 18 titles, to become the second most successful club in league history behind Juventus with 36 league wins. And finally, Chelsea ladies manager Emma Hayes says she's overwhelmed and struggling to express her pride at guiding the club to their first Women's UEFA Champions League final. The Blues beat Bayern Munich's ladies 5-3 on aggregate, overturning a 2-1 first leg deficit to win 4-1 and reach the final against Barcelona on Sistag to win a quadruple, having already won the Continental Cup. And that's sports news on KUFM's News Break. My name is Egusa Egwekan, and back to you.
And that's the news, but before we go, a quick recap of the headlines. Germany is set to return first set of artifacts in 2022. Gunmen release kidnapped AAU professor. And hoodlums raise INEC office in Akwa Ibom. Do remember that the continued unity of Nigeria is a collective responsibility. Be sure to play your part. Do not forget you can listen to us anywhere in the world by visiting our website at www.kufm.net or download our mobile app from the Google Play Store. We are also on YouTube at KUFM Nigeria. KUFM's News Break was produced by Blessing Asekume. I am Omoyo Ogbaide saying thanks for listening. Good morning.